I have more energy than I ever have in my entire life.
Yeah.
And I have more creativity and drive than I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
And I feel more like myself than I ever have.
Lauren, hi.
Hi, Anders.
You first wrote to me back in March.
I did.
For tapering advice.
I did.
Then I replied in July. Sorry for that delay.
That's okay.
And so in August, we had our first consultation about your situation, which we're going to hear about today. But it was then that we both agreed that we need more success stories out there of coming off antidepressants. And so here we are in September, where you actually flew to Copenhagen to do this podcast.
And I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's lovely to have you here.
I'm very grateful. Thank you so much.
So that was kind of the context around what leading up to this podcast. And we're going to hear your story. And instead of starting with the classic diagnosis, I really wanted to start with the only question I think really matters to someone who is or was suffering emotionally. So what happened to you? Can you take us back to that suffering, those struggles that eventually led you to start an antidepressant?
I can. I was 14 years old when I was put on the medication, but 14 years old is when I started to experience major depression and suicidal thoughts. I was cutting myself. I struggled with anorexia, codependence on my older brother. Negative thinking, negative self-talk. I truly hated myself.
Yeah. At 14. Age 14.
Age 14, which is, yes, very young. I was really trying to also support my brother, who was also struggling with suicidal thoughts and depression. And I was a 14-year-old. I don't know how much help.
Bigger brother.
Older brother, yes.
Brother.
2 years older.
Yeah, you took on that role.
I took on that role. Yeah. Because we both felt that our parents were not equipped to help us with what we were going through.
Okay. So just to be sure, there was a context around those behaviors or, quote, symptoms you just described before.
Correct.
Yeah. What was that context?
So a little bit about my parents. To understand my story, it's good to kind of understand them a little bit more. Yeah. And I would describe my childhood as chaotic.
Yeah.
My dad, a little bit about him. My father is a workaholic and chronically stressed, consistently stressed. And he had about 1 million projects that he was doing at a time. He is an entrepreneur and never stopped working is how I would describe him. And how that later manifested in the future is he later went to prison. For money laundering and check kiting, to kind of put into, I think, trying to juggle all of those things. I think he started to compromise his values and do things that weren't so awesome.
Okay.
And so a little bit about my mom. Mm-hmm. My mom obviously didn't like the way that he was doing business, and I think she did not feel supported in raising her 5 kids.
5 kids.
Yes, 5 of us.
Okay.
Yes, nice troop.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I think she had a hard time with her own emotions. And so supporting ours, I think, was very difficult, especially when her marriage was obviously very chaotic and stressful. Yeah.
And you mentioned supporting your emotions. What were they? Can you remember those?
The emotions that I had. So when I would go to my parents with, I had immense stress. I feel a loss of control in my life. And no consistency. And when I would come to my mom with these feelings, with these struggles, and kind of like, what's going on? Like, what is Dad doing for work? Why is everything so chaotic all the time? She would always say, everything's fine.
Okay. So you were actually brave enough to come to them with those emotions. And you mentioned uncontrollability.
Yes.
And unpredictability.
Yes.
Inconsistency.
Inconsistency.
Okay, so those are 3 like kind of basic human needs right there. To have consistency for a child and some degree of control, agency.
Yes.
And then sharing your emotions, having those validated.
Yes.
There's three, I hope you know that, 3 kind of big needs we have that went unmet.
Correct. Yeah, that was really, really hard for me to have, feel like my intuition told me, something's not okay. Something is very wrong. Yeah. You have all these huge emotions and what's going on. This is my reality is that things are chaos. And when you go to, your mom who you love and support so much and she tells you, nothing's going on, everything's fine. It really made me look inward and think, okay, what is wrong with me then?
Yeah, that's what's wrong with me. Exactly. Yeah. Yes. So that's the sense making of it. Basically, you're just trying to, as I hear, you tried to make sense of what was happening.
Yes.
Like all these emotions in there and then trying to express them and have them validated or at least understood, regulated. Yeah. I usually think about that as language. Like we're born with a capacity to learn language. Humans are, but it doesn't develop itself. It needs to be taught and showed and regulated.
Yes.
So, and it's the exact same with emotion regulation. So what you just did there was really an attempt to learn how to regulate and understand emotions. And when that's then denied, because that's what you said, right?
Yes.
Nothing, it's perfect. All's good here.
Yep.
Your story became, I'm wrong. Okay. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. It's very interesting to me how how I came to that conclusion. But it makes sense that, when you look up to a trusted adult and they tell you that what you're feeling and your intuition is wrong, I learned to not trust that. Yeah. Learn to not trust my feelings and in turn, learn to not trust myself. Yeah. And what happens to someone that doesn't trust themselves, thinks there's something deeply wrong with them. I thought there must be something wrong with my brain. There must be something wrong with when I was born, something went wrong. And what does someone do who believes that? Yeah. And I'm sure that's how that manifested.
Exactly. Yes, you start looking inward because there has to be an explanation. Like we're sense-making creatures. It has to make sense in some way. It creates too much of it and a deep tension in us if there's no explanation. So it's the way to think of it. That equation has to align. We have to find some reason. There's no not having a reason. It doesn't exist. And so the obvious reason, which it sounds like listening to the context, there was something wrong in your family dynamics, in your context.
Yes.
But you kind of trusted your parents. Oh, everything's fine here. You kind of tend to trust it.
Yes.
So, okay, it's not that, then it must be me.
Or what else could it be?
What else could it be? It has to be. Yeah. So you were the problem.
I was the problem.
Well, you weren't, but the story you created was that you were the problem.
Correct.
So how does that relate to the strategies you mentioned before, quote, symptoms in psychiatry? But here we really want to try to make sense of even the most obviously destructive behaviors.
Yes. I think for me, I looked to the next best thing, and that was my older brother. Yeah. So I was like, hey, if my parents denying my reality, maybe my brother knows. Yeah.
Next in line.
Next in line. So I think that's where codependence formed. Is his values, his needs, everything about him became more important than what I was experiencing or going through. He became the answer, I guess, to me. And I looked up to him tremendously, but to a fault, where I didn't see my own needs.
No. But they were untrue too. Like your emotions were not valid in your story. Yes. So why really care?
Yeah. And I think, just not trusting myself I grew to not like myself because like if I, with the same, what is wrong with me, that brought about, comparing myself to others, comparing my body to others. And I think to kind of gain a sense of control back, that's where, I started restricting my food, started hurting myself, and felt really suicidal and felt, why am I here if I have so many issues?
And all those behaviors you just mentioned here, does it make sense to you now looking back that they were attempts to, well, essentially survive?
Yes.
Strategies.
To cope.
Yeah.
I do understand now that it was my way of trying to gain some control, trying to make sense of what I was experiencing, trying to find an answer. I do understand how that happened now.
And it usually comes later when reflecting back, and also depending on what kind of help you get. Like ideally, and we'll get to that, what help or not help you eventually went on to get. But just to say that that is the, like, there are different schools of psychotherapy, but like the overall psychological solution to that kind of suffering is really just to connect the dots at first, at least. Like, how can this behavior make sense? I've been a clinical psychologist for 10 years. I've never seen it not make sense. Like, never, ever have I seen it not make sense if we understand the context you're in and that we're coping, sense-making creatures. That's it. So, and really interesting, just for talking these 10, 12 minutes, we really did like a classic, what's called the PTMF, the Power Threat Meaning Framework, case conceptualization, really, with these 4 pretty intuitive questions once you leave medical language and diagnostics behind just a little bit. So just to clarify, like, something happened. So what happened to you would be the first question. Then how did that affect you? What sense did you make of it, and how did you survive? Those 4 questions. Something happened. Like, it's no disorder, it's no illness, it's not random. You weren't born with it. It's not a chemical imbalance. It's not a genetic abnormality, all of that stuff. And we'll get back to that. There's a context around it. So we always ask what happened. And then we have an idea that we try to survive. Really radical idea, you see. It's like really... we try to survive. We do something. We don't just sit with our pain and let others and ourselves inflict pain on us and just sit. Like, we do something. We have strategies. And sometimes, in fact, most often those strategies are short-term strategies. They work here and now. Cutting, for example, isolating, overthinking, relying on someone else, distracting. Drugs, even if you had access to that would probably be appealing to dull those emotions. So we do something that works in the short term. And there's a wisdom in that. Like, we have to trust that whatever you did back then was the best thing you could do. That's what you had available.
Right.
Yeah. And then add what it did to you and that you're trying to make sense of it. Those 4 questions, I tell you, not that this is supposed to be a lecture on that, but just from talking to you 10 minutes, it's so clear how this framework works. There's no need for a diagnosis. We don't need to call it anything. Would you agree?
I 100% agree with you, yes. It didn't feel like a lecture at all. It's so important. It's so important to me because I feel like I could have saved a lot of time.
Yeah.
and a lot of pain.
Yeah.
If I was treated this way.
Yeah.
From the beginning.
Yeah.
If I was asked these questions.
Yeah. And
from the beginning. And I was not.
No one was looking into the context.
No. And if they were not finding anything.
And what about your, like, peers, friends, family looking outside? Did they understand if you went to them with your struggles?
No.
No.
They did not understand. I was met with, Lauren, why aren't you more grateful? You have parents that love you. You have so many blessings. You get to feel sad and to be struggling with these things. What are you doing? You know what?
Yeah.
You have no reason to feel this way. And that only...
so how did that affect you? Having that...
that solidified that belief that, there is something terribly wrong with me, because I do feel grateful, but I also felt like I didn't want to live. And so that solidified or fed that belief that something is inherently wrong with me.
So no one met you in this?
No.
So when did you start, if you did, using the trauma word? Like, when did you realize this was in fact a trauma, not having your emotions validated? Because I think most people need to have expanded the definition of trauma, but it's not only these major life events, abuse, war, accidents, whatever. It's not like necessarily these major negative life events happening to you. A trauma can just as well be, something that's not there, that should have been there, considering our developmental needs. For example, having our emotions validated, shared, regulated, predictability, consistency. Those are needs. And when they're not met, to me, and where I come from, that's just as much a trauma as some major life event being inflicted. So the point is also, like, you weren't asked these questions at the right time.
No.
So instead, you're giving a diagnosis and a medication.
Yes.
So maybe if we could move on to that. So in lack of what we how we analyzed it here in 20 minutes, it was not that complicated, right? Usually, and I find that a lot with many of my clients, just in the field in general, that it's so complex. There's this at least in psychiatry and some degree in psychology, this enigma around so-called mental illness. Like we don't really understand it. Like it's so confusing. We don't know. We never understand it. We need to understand all that neurobabble stuff, mystery. Like it's a bold claim to make, but I don't. It can be tough. It usually is tough to recover from. Oh yes, and it hurts. But it's not necessarily complicated if you know what to look for. And look what we just did in 20 minutes having that. So, okay. So what happened? Let's talk about what happened next then in the absence of this meeting the medical system. What happened?
Yeah. So when my brother came home from the treatment center, he now I think was able to recognize, signs of things that aren't good.
Yeah.
And when he would hang out with me, he was like, okay, Lauren is struggling. And I told him, I'm cutting myself. I don't want to live. I'm super sad. And so he talked to my parents and was like, Lauren needs to go. Now it's her turn. So the next child in line needs to go get help because we're not getting help here.
No.
But so immediately when I went to the treatment center, I maybe had one therapy session, was given the diagnosis of depression, and then immediately was sent to the psychiatrist and put on a medication day one from quick
and effective.
No, not a lot of questions. More like, what are you feeling? I'm like, sad. I feel, I'm struggling, and I have these negative behaviors. However, I said it as a 14-year-old then, but was immediately put on an antidepressant.
Yeah. Negative behaviors. Yeah. Helpful behaviors. Yes. Wise behaviors, problematic solutions, I would call it. Okay, so what did that diagnosis do for you?
That diagnosis at first felt validating.
Yeah.
To finally put a word to what I was feeling, to have a professional tell me, you are experiencing this. This is real.
Yeah. Something you have.
Yes.
You have a depression.
Yes.
You
have something. I told him, how long will I have to stay on this medication? He's like, probably for life. You probably have from hearing like what you didn't have any, significant trauma that like I could recall off the top of my head. He was like, you'll probably have to stay on this medication for life. Probably have a chemical imbalance
of course.
In your brain. And it's probably in your genetics.
Yeah.
You probably have depression in your genetics.
That really escalated quickly. They can do that from just one. But to try to understand, that's what that profession thinks. Like, within what they've been taught, it's rational because they genuinely believe, I don't know who they are, but people working in that way, they genuinely believe that there are these conditions, these entities that you can have a depression decoupled from context and life stories, a depression. So there's this inbuilt causality almost in it, like your depression is giving you symptoms.
Yes.
So it's not your life and what you did.
No,
it's not reactions. It's a symptom of something. But as much as that is wrong, it's wrong. That's not the way it works. There's still some psychological value in it immediately, is what you're saying. Like in that situation.
It's validating.
It's validating.
It's a path forward.
Yeah.
But became deeply harmful and fed the belief once again, there's something really wrong with me. I'm depressed. I got something wrong in my head. But initially it did feel very validating.
So it's actually the same recipe as all the other strategies. It's just the same pattern. It works.
Yes,
it solves a problem here and now, but then it causes other problems long term.
Yes.
Could you have reached that validation in another way? Could you have targeted the same
100%.
Mechanism with,
100%.
Yeah, because I think too.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I being in the treatment center was helpful in many ways because I was in groups day in and day out with people that wanted to support me and talk to me and give me connection.
Yeah.
And that's what I truly needed.
Yeah.
And I think that made, and we can talk about that later, but I feel like about this part later, but I feel like the medication, once I felt like it was working, was at the same time I'm in a treatment center talking about things and getting connection.
Yeah.
And so, correlation is not causation. Yeah. It wasn't the med. I don't believe that was helping me. I believe it was the connection I was receiving.
Exactly. And again, the interesting thing is, we can't go back in time, obviously, but it's just good to reflect on, like, we could have reached that in other ways.
Yes.
Like, there are other ways to get connection and validation.
Yes.
But apparently this is what was needed. Okay. So what did the drug do? if you know.
So
And which drug was it? Maybe.
So I was on. So they initially put me on Zoloft.
Yeah.
And it made me exhausted. So then they switched me to Prozac, and that made me super anxious. And so they kept switching it around multiple times until we found one, I think it was Celexa, that I didn't notice symptoms. And so I assumed must be working.
Okay, so because it did not cause adverse effects.
Right.
And that was kind of the other way around. This does not hurt me.
Correct. And I also had that belief, something is wrong with me. So I'm like, okay, since there's no symptoms, and there's something wrong in my brain, it must be doing what it's supposed to be doing. It is fixing the imbalance. It is, treating the depression.
So your answer to the question, if you had to answer the question, what did the drug do for you? It's actually not only, but more of a belief. Like, it's not some immediate effect that was helpful that you can compare to not taking it. It was more the belief that, okay, it's fixing something in me, which at this point was still your story, right?
Right.
But did it have like an emotional effect too, on top of the belief it confirmed? What did it do to you?
Looking back now, I can see that it made me completely exhausted.
Yeah.
Sleep 14 hours a day. Didn't realize it was the drug until I began to taper and got off.
Yeah, and we'll get very strong back to the tapering stuff later.
Yes.
But it's just, to pause there, interesting, like it can be pretty difficult to know exactly what a drug does. One should think that if I'm putting a drug in me, I'll know what it does to me. But really, compared to what? Like, we don't get a control group in real. We don't know what it does to us really.
No.
So this problem that it only becomes clear once you're off it, and you can see the contrast to how you were medicated.
It was extremely difficult for me to tell what it was doing.
Yeah.
But I believed it was working. And I know placebo can be huge, and I felt happier. And I do believe that was because of the connection.
Yeah.
But I do think it also, looking back now, dulled my emotions.
Yeah.
So things weren't as sad. Things weren't as happy. Things weren't as, I couldn't fully reach emotions fully, but obviously didn't know that till much later.
Yeah, that's how the drugs work. Simple as that. I know psychiatry wants these drugs to be very specific and, weird and complex. Yeah. I find them to be the most simple drugs on earth almost. Like it's comically simple. That's not to say they don't have a value, but the way they work is not like though we call them anti this and that, it's not like they with surgical precision enter the brain and remove the depression or the anxiety or the psychosis. Like they're not selective in that way. They numb all sorts of things. Mm-hmm. And that's how they can work on a deep depression or anxiety. Sometimes, at least in the beginning, that effect can feel relieving. It depends on what you mean by work, but they definitely can provide short-term relief. But that's not to confuse that with true healing, because it's just numbing. And as you just said, it's like, at least most of my clients would explain it like, it's like their emotional range is just squashed. Like,
yes.
So the highs and lows. Mm-hmm. That can be pretty good in a real acute crisis.
Yeah.
When there's no other solutions. It's a strategy. It's a strategy like all the other strategies that we can find, really. It's an emotion regulation strategy. So, and that can be useful in the short term, but if you keep numbing, like, it's going to cause problems because you also lose the highs and you can lose the motivation, initiative,
creativity,
true joy, creativity, spirituality, maybe. All those things that we don't want numb. And you were out for 10 years.
Yes. Or maybe 12.
12. When did you come off?
I came off about 10 months ago.
10 months ago.
Mm-hmm. I did a lot of moving around with the drug, I guess, trying different medications, because when I would have, I continued to have depression.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not, okay. So that's the point in itself. Like, even though the lows were a bit less low, you're a bit less sad. Mm-hmm. It's not like it protected you from depressive episodes.
No. And I thought it should. So when I kept having depressive episodes after treatment, and if you look at my life after treatment, there's a lot of things going on that would point to why I would be feeling what I was feeling and experiencing. But so it would still feel depressed. And so I'd go in, I need to up my dose. I talked to the doctor, is it working? I don't know. And they couldn't really tell me if it was working or not. So I tried a bunch of different antidepressants, eventually landed on Lexapro. And increase the dose to the highest max dose.
Yeah, of course.
Of medication, yeah.
Still not looking into context or anything.
No.
And I'm sure we could take, if we had time, or we could do that another time, if we took each episode over those 10 years, there would be some context around it. There's something leading up to it that would make it make sense.
Right.
And again, just to repeat, the psychological solution there would be to figure out what that is.
Right.
Again, controversial idea. Maybe something leads up to it. And the reason why it repeats over 10 years is because no one helped you to see what it was.
Right.
And react to it differently and understand the patterns.
Correct.
How that has become a controversial thing, approach, as opposed to just constant relapse prevention with medication. That doesn't work. Like, that's the irony, but that's the idea. Let's stay medicated all the time to protect from relapses, whether that be psychosis, anxiety, depression. So the idea is absurd, but it's absurd beyond belief when we see that it doesn't really work for most people. Right. And I can say most people because we know the statistics around it. It is more common not to respond to an antidepressant than it is to. So I won't bore you with those statistics now. Okay. So, and through all this, was your story still that it was something with you?
Yes.
What eventually broke that story?
So the turning point for me was, of course, a bunch of little things that were all combined. But for me, it started with going to, I was continually having episodes of depression. And so I'd go to my doctor, and once he upped my dose to 40 milligrams of Lexapro, he told me, this can affect your heart. This probably will give you heart complications in the future.
Okay.
And he said, but you're young, so it's fine. And there was, no plan of when I needed to start tapering when it would affect my heart, but it was just, you're young, you're fine. And and I started thinking about that, and I was like, oh, I don't want,
Okay, so he was just informing the patient. Actually, sometimes they don't do that. So it was informed consent, but in a pretty rough, raw, not that it pointed to you doing something else.
Yes.
It's just, okay.
And that made me think, if this can hurt my heart, at that time I was thinking about having children.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, could this affect, this can affect my body. Will it affect, my pregnancy? What kind of things can happen then?
So you started to reflect.
On how this was affecting me.
Yeah.
And
that's what we're told not to, really, isn't it? Just to trust the experts. And if you go online or go to your doctors with some papers, I found this. That's usually a bad, in their view, a bad sign. It's the patient doing their own research, trying to be the experts.
Right.
But 9 times out of 10, this is what saves people. They start doing their own education.
Right.
So did your own reflections, really?
Yes, my own reflections. And a little before that, I met my husband. While meeting my husband, he really challenged my belief that there was something wrong with me also. He was like, I don't buy that, and he always challenged me to have an opinion for myself.
Yeah.
I was very agreeable. I never felt anger, which I thought was a personality trait.
Oh, so you were just not the angry type.
Yeah,
that was kind of your story. Okay,
yep,
I don't
feel
have
angry.
that.
I'm agreeable. I go with the flow. And my husband was more like, no, you are an amazing person. Who are you? What do you want? What is your opinion? And that's when my world went.
Yeah. So they were shattered, those beliefs that story.
I started to look at those beliefs and think, maybe there isn't anything wrong with me.
And how does that feel? How was that?
That was liberating. That sent me on a journey of 2 years depression-free.
Okay.
No episodes at that same time. Also, my father went to prison.
Yeah.
And that was, one of those big trauma moments that it's easier to look at and be like, maybe something was going on, that things were a little chaotic in my home.
Yeah. So there was evidence enough to support the true story, the one you should have been held back then. At some point, there's a tipping point. Now there's enough evidence for this to be my narrative.
Yes.
Cool. So was it exclusively relieving, positive? Was there any resistance towards it from some parts of you? And I'm not fishing. You can say no if there isn't.
No. I did feel liberated. That's a great question. I did feel liberated, but I did, of course, have habits that I had formed to cope that were very comfortable, even though they were not helpful. They were very sleeping a lot, not saying yes to plans, not really, being afraid to do things. My body wanted to keep me comfortable and safe, and so I could feel that my body was working against me, not wanting to go out and do what liberated people do.
So safe. Exactly.
Safe. I was safe, yes.
It was safety, and that's really a good point. And did you just say it was working against you?
I felt like my body was like, go back to bed.
I think it just, I actually think it works. It worked for you. I know what you mean. It was a problem. But if you were to ask those parts what they wanted for you, it was not bad. No. In fact, it never is. They're trying to protect you.
Yeah.
So I get what you mean, and I agree. It turned to be problems, but their core, what they wanted, was good.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Too much, really. Overprotection, which you could call it.
Yes.
And this is not just, at least to me, it's not just terminology, because clearly it was a problem, but the way through it, and we're going to hear what happened to those then, the most effective way through even the most problematic behaviors, destructive even, is through understanding what they want. And you said it yourself, safety. So they've had 10 years to really form those habits. That you're a person who needs to be saved by those parts. Isolation, saying no, being agreeable, not being angry.
Yeah.
And then suddenly there's a shift, and that's exactly why I asked, because I could only imagine there being mixed emotions about it.
Yes.
Like, because obviously, yes, it is relieving and it's what saved you, but usually there are some other parts. We have parts and they compete, and there'd be another part of us that still just wants to seek protection. What did you do then? Did you just follow and rush out into life? Yeah.
A little at a time is what I did, step by step.
Yeah.
My husband is one of those people that he gets out and he does everything. He is spontaneous. He is, really excited about life, a hard worker. And so what's nice about him is he's easy to follow. So when he's a guy with plans, so I just jumped on his train. Great. So I was like, hey, if he's going out and getting things done, he's seeing people. So I didn't agree to everything at first, but I would, go on walks with him. I would go on hikes with him. I would, start stretching, start reaching out to friends, going to therapy, started going to therapy more regularly, reading, my books to understand myself more. So just, little, steps. And some days were harder than others I could feel that resistance of, stay in bed, stay in your old patterns.
It was there. Something was working against you in the sense that it just needs to be updated. So it's a slow system. That's really the point. Like, it doesn't update just overnight. Okay,
no.
Now it's not me. I'm good. Yep. Then leave behind everything I built inside me to protect from that. It takes time, and they kind of tend to resist. Work. Yeah, they tend to resist. Like there is, and that's just a cool mechanism to know, to not get confused. Like why do I still feel this way now that I know it's not me and it was the context? Well, that makes sense. That's just how the psyche and the body operates. There's a time lag. So had you followed those and made that part the dominating one, that would have caused problems, right? But you went out into the world and found ways to regulate that and understand it. Great.
Yes.
Cool. So really, it was this story updating thing about you that made the difference.
Yes. And putting in the work.
And put in the work, obviously. Yeah, but that was what made you.
Yes, that was the catalyst. Yes.
So what happened to the drug then? Because it sounds like a situation where one would not need an antidepressant anymore.
Right.
Is that right?
When I couldn't keep a job. No. I've had, if you can see my list of jobs that I've tried and left because of depression, it is insane, and it is a joke among my friends and family to pull out Lauren's list of jobs.
Yeah.
But during that 2-year period, I started work at a dental office as a dental assistant, and really put the good beliefs that I am capable and I can do things to work. And I became the head assistant, the go-to person. Yeah. I started fixing old dental equipment. Yeah, and I don't know anything about it, but I just gave myself a shot. I just tried it, and I started to fix things, and I started to be able to do things. And I was like, wow, it's unlimited what I can do. And that's when I was like, yeah, why am I even on this medication? And so that's when I decided it's time to taper.
Okay.
Yes.
So you came off the drug.
Yes.
But that's when it got really difficult.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes. I didn't know how, when you talk to doctors about tapering, you know, I went to my doctor, like, I'm ready to get off. He was like, hey, we can half it, and then we can half it again, and half it again until it's gone, and you're done.
Standard advice.
Standard advice. And when I did try that, it was extremely difficult.
Yeah.
And so it took me about 1 year and 6 months of doing the half it method.
Yeah.
I would just notice, a rise in depression. And so I thought, okay, maybe my brain is just struggling, you know, with this.
With coming off.
Yes.
Adjusting. That was your story about it.
Yes.
That's how you approached it. Yeah, but that's good.
Yes.
But it's true.
Yeah. Like,
it's just
I think I was kind of compassionate, with myself, but I know, that's not how I think a lot of people, you don't expect it. And it wasn't until the 5 milligrams off that I had
from 5 to 0
severe withdrawal. And that's where I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
What is happening?
But at no point were you thinking this is the depression coming back and I need it? Or did that thought arise?
I think I did, especially in my lowest moments. I question, maybe I do need this, you know.
That's the sense making coming in again. As long, in the absence of knowledge about how severe withdrawal can be, there's no doubt this was withdrawal. If we don't have that knowledge, obviously our thoughts would just keep looking for it. What is it then if it's not withdrawal? And my doctor told me I could taper this way. It's not withdrawal. Then it must be a relapse or something else. But the fact that you could sustain that, like endure that, just believing. That's why I asked.
Yes.
Did you? Because it sounded like you approached it like, okay, this is my brain adjusting. Mm-hmm. That's just cool that you could do that.
Thank you.
That's exactly what this is all about.
Thank you.
And this was before reading up on tapering.
Yes, this is before reading on tapering. So I think I took it as, I think the reason I had that belief is I've been told since I was young that I'm very sensitive.
Yeah.
I have a lot of emotions. Almost my emotions are too much.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, I'm a sensitive person, so maybe medication, I'm a little sensitive to medication. So it's just a little harder for me to get off of.
Yeah.
And I need to go a little slower.
Well, it's good you had that story with you.
I'm actually glad I had that story.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was
That's
story.
where it's benefit. Yes. So how did it look like? And we can get back to why that's wrong, but just to confirm, like the step from 5 to 0 is, crazy as it may sound, bigger than even from 40 to 5. That's because of how the drugs work. The majority of the effect is in fact in a very tiny part of the dose. So already at 5 milligrams of that, most of the receptors that drug is targeting are blocked. And then you can keep adding as much drug as you want, but the effect doesn't double. So 10 is not the double of 5, 20 is not the double of 10, and so on. Mm-hmm. It kind of tapers off in that way. So what happened when you went, if you had to explain your symptoms from 5 to 0, the worst withdrawal, how did it look?
Oh, man. It is the worst thing I've ever experienced.
The worst.
In my entire life. And I really want to emphasize that.
Yeah, please
so
take
that
some time.
People experiencing that feel that validation of how awful it is. My hardest symptoms for me, it started with, bugs crawling under the skin. Yeah. And I've heard, I was like, oh, like this is like I'm coming off of heroin because why do I have bugs crawling under my skin? Severe sensitivity to light, sound, smell.
Light, sound, and smell with just exaggerated reactions to that. And painful?
I was so irritable that it felt painful, if that makes sense. Exactly. It was so frustrating, the hyper awareness of every sensation of my body.
Sounds like
I want to flip a table. Is what I did. And then knowing me, Lauren, who didn't feel anger, feeling this much
not angry type.
Anger, like it was like it was crazy for me.
That's a contrast. Like obviously it's not true that there's no such thing as a non-angry person.
Correct.
But in your story at this point, this might be like a huge disturbance too.
Huge disturbance, and everything my husband did, I was enraged and completely unlike the person I was, but agreeable, easygoing, wanting to please, I was mad at everything he did.
Yeah.
And he was a great support to me through it. I think one of the last symptoms I would say that was super hard for me was like depersonalization, like feeling like I was not in reality. Yeah. I was in a whole other world. I felt like I was a completely different person, had a completely different brain, felt like an alien.
And were you mindful of that while, like, did you know I'm depersonalized?
I didn't have that. I didn't know what that word was. Okay. So I didn't know how to explain it. So my poor husband would get novels of me being like, I am feeling this and I'm trying to describe this. And he was just like, I'm sorry, but I don't know what is going on with you.
Good thing you didn't go to a psych ward. You might have been psychotic.
I wanted to.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going crazy.
Well, good thing you didn't. You didn't go, or you did go?
I did not go. I actually was hospitalized twice.
During withdrawal?
Not during withdrawal, but previously while on antidepressants. And I learned from those experiences, from 2 suicide attempts, I had learned that in the US, you have to pay for it. So I'd walk away with a $10,000 bill that I had to deal with when I got out. Yeah. And same thing, they just are like, would check my meds and it didn't help.
No.
Overall, it didn't help. So I knew going through, I'm thankful I had that information. So going through withdrawal, I knew that going to the hospital would not help me. Yeah. They wouldn't be able to fix what was going on. I should have added that I had the context of, so when these symptoms really exploded, I searched everywhere for help. Yeah. And I found an account of a woman who was experiencing withdrawal. So I think I searched antidepressant withdrawal. Yeah. And I found a woman who was experiencing even more severe withdrawal symptoms than what I was experiencing. And I chatted with her a little bit, and she referred me to a Facebook page that talked about it and talked about tapering. Yeah. And so that's where I kind of had the idea of, okay, I'm not going crazy. Yeah. And I also was, along that same line of looking for resources, I searched on YouTube, antidepressant withdrawal, and I found your videos on YouTube.
Cool. My good old videos.
And I watched every single one.
That's a lot.
And you told me in those videos that I'm not going crazy. Yeah. And that kind of made me realize, okay, if I go to a hospital, I'm just going to get another diagnosis. Yeah. And that will not be helpful.
Oh, that's so good to hear that those videos, I remember making those very well.
It gave me hope to keep going. It helped me tremendously. Yeah. So thank you.
Of course, of course. Yeah, I'm so glad to hear that they worked. It's just sharing knowledge. Like, it's not that complicated. It's just sharing, spreading ideas as we do now, and as I tried to do with the book that was recently out and those videos. So, it's so good to hear.
I think I felt really alone with our healthcare system. Yeah. I felt like I knew going into a doctor I would be asked to be put back on meds because they don't understand withdrawal. No. Or I would get a diagnosis, or it is a really lonely feeling, feeling like no professional can help you with something so extreme.
Exactly.
And so having a doctor be able to tell me, not even bat an eye if I told you what symptoms I was going through, was so validating. Was what I was searching for. Yeah. And I was like, hey, if I'm failed here in the US, at least I have Anders in Denmark.
Go to Europe.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. So, and that's a fair point. Like, you felt alone, and a lot of people do. As long as the system is as it is now, and as long as mainstream psychiatry refuse to incorporate our research on this, and that would be a long, boring lecture. We could take that another time, but they do resist it. They do refuse to. As long as that's how the system works, people will feel alone, and people will eventually in their journeys start educating themselves online, and they'll find the online forums, which I should say have a long history, especially in the UK and the US. Like, because there's rarely any help to get, exactly as the opposite. Mm-hmm. People have for decades found each other, like, beyond the system. We have Surviving Antidepressants, we have Inner Compass Initiative, we have almost, regardless of what drug name you type on Facebook, the first group that's going to appear is a support group to come off it. Mm-hmm. Like, so that tells us something, right? So patients or people have been trying to, gather for years, decades even, to help each other. And that's just an interesting point to make. Like, why do we accept that? that you have to find the real help outside of the system. So did you stay on those groups? What happened?
I will say also, while my therapist was an amazing, and still is to this day, an amazing support for me, she also didn't know about withdrawal. So the groups were helpful for me to know that there's a correct way to taper. And I learned quickly that I tapered wrong from the 5 milligrams off. But I was looking for hope when you're going through something that intense and lonely. You're looking for any kind of shred of evidence of hope because you feel like you're going insane.
And you don't know if it'll pass, right?
No, I had no idea if it'll pass. No. I didn't know if I'd ever feel like myself again or what myself even was. And so on those pages, I didn't find a lot of success stories.
No.
Or everyone is very upset because they're experiencing something so terrible. There's a lot of education on how to taper, but not that I will make it through.
So there's validation, like this is normal, happens to others.
Yes.
But not a lot of hope in there. And that's really what hence this.
Yes.
we want it because we really want both.
Yes.
And and maybe take us through. So people might, listening, if there are any, how long did it last, the symptom? Because they're not there now, right?
No.
It came off about 10 months ago.
Yes, about 10 months ago.
So you wrote to me in March.
I did. So I was off in January or December.
Yeah.
So it was like about 4 months.
Yeah. And at that point, the symptoms were pretty strong still.
Yes. At that point, I was really, fight or flight, waking up with adrenaline dumps is what a lot of people in the group called it. Just pure fear and panic and like symptoms of PTSD.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I was looking for maybe I need to reinstate this drug because I will do anything to survive at this point. And I saw that. I watched one of your videos on YouTube that sometimes reinstating the drug after a certain amount of time is not helpful and can be dangerous and can cause serotonin syndrome.
And so for you, the symptoms passed. That's the story. Like they're gone
did
now.
Pass. Yes.
And just to take listeners through, like exactly as you said, that is the conundrum, if that's a word in English, the problem. So the idea is that we can't be sure that the body will accept reintroducing the drug if we've been in severe withdrawal for too long, just because we've introduced too big a task for the body, really. It was too much going 5 to 0. And it can't keep up with that, but it's still trying. So the body is really, again, it's lazy. It's trying to predict what we're doing to it. So it comes to, when you take a drug for 10 years, or even 5 or 1, it comes to expect that it'll keep coming. And if we make too drastic a change in what happens compared to what the body expects, it'll scream with symptoms. Yes. So that's just to say that if you had reintroduced within, I would say maybe 2 weeks, you could be fairly sure that it would just stop.
Wow.
The next same day or maybe 1 or 2 days after. But since you've waited so long, there is this idea, and we don't know how long that window is. Obviously, it's very individual. But for most people, there will be a window where, okay, if you introduce the drug, 3 things can happen. It can still work. It can also just not work because you've waited too long. It's still withdrawal caused, but the body won't accept it or it can make it worse. And that's the third option that really scares us.
Yes.
So, and there's no like one size fits all answer to this. It really varies. But you stayed in it and healed.
Yes.
And the very, very dark reality here is that some people, even 10 months in, will not have healed. And that does something to you to hear, I can see. What happens?
I just feel for people.
Yeah. What you want to say to them?
That they are not alone. And that they will heal. That they're not going crazy.
Yeah.
They're not in another dimension. And that, like, I wish that I knew about tapering correctly and I would have done it.
Yeah.
But I just was a little too late.
Yeah.
But even though I tapered too quickly and incorrectly, like I was able to heal.
Yeah.
And so if that gives them any hope,
yeah,
I really hope it does.
Yeah. And the time frame varies a lot. Like for some, it's long. When did it stop for you? If you had to put a time frame from when it begins to stops?
I'd say about 8 months.
8 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gradual improvement or
gradual?
Okay. Yeah.
Gradual, and different symptoms emerged at different times. The beginning very physical, first like 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
Then after that, it became very panic oriented, and then from there it kind of was like crying spells and and I know it'll be different for everyone, but it was more of a gradual, but we could see the healing.
Yeah, great. For some people, it might have been 10, 12, 15, 24 months. It could really, sometimes we have to enter the time frame of a concussion, like a severe head injury, where everyone accepts this can take years for the body to adapt from. And that was also why, because when we talked in July, then you were 4 months in, and my first question, remember that, because it always is, can you mention some symptoms that are clearly, they were there, but they're not there anymore? Like, can you point to some symptoms that clearly has improved, or faded? And that's our best sign. If that's a yes, to me, not to give general advice, but that's a big green flag in terms of not reinstating, because then it shows it is healing. Had you been exactly the same or even worse at 10 months, that would be a different story. And we have absolutely no way to tell. That's the added pain of it, because it's painful enough, but not knowing how long it'll potentially last is
I when I reached out to you, or when you responded to me later on, at that point I was worried because I knew I tapered incorrectly.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if I was still going to heal or not, because I still was having those symptoms. And so I was like, what happened? There's no information about if you taper incorrectly and can't get back on.
No.
Am I going to heal? You know, what's going to happen?
And you were,
Yes. But you helped me see that some symptoms I've seen them have passed.
Yeah.
And so that was very comforting to hear.
Great.
Yes.
So you made it through severe withdrawal.
Yes.
What about the emotions? And we talked about it before. Once you're off the drug, it's clearer to see what it did. So, so now that withdrawals have passed, and some of the withdrawals are emotional too, right? It's not that's what makes it so muddy. It's not just lying on the floor sweating with brain saps and pains and like physical symptoms that are easy to tell from the original condition.
Right.
So they can also be emotional. That's what makes it muddy. But if you were to say, like, do you feel like you have access now to your like true self and emotional state?
Yes, it's amazing.
Yeah. Talk a bit about it.
It has felt like I've been asleep for 10 or 12 years.
Metaphorically or literally?
Both, I guess. So,
Because you mentioned being very tired.
I was very tired because of a side effect from the medication. And so, yes, I have more energy than I ever have in my entire life. Yeah. And I have more creativity and drive than I've ever experienced. Yeah. And I feel more like myself than I ever have, and more in connection with my intuition and wanting to connect with people too. I thought I was an introvert. Boy, was I wrong.
You start making stories like, I'm an introvert, not angry kind of person.
Yeah,
lazy maybe because I sleep so much. Like whatever story we can build around that.
100%. I want to be with people, make connections. Getting an opportunity to come here and do a podcast, I was like 100%. Like I want to find my purpose and find a drive for life, and now I have. Yeah. I have through tapering. I started to feel anger. And start to welcome that emotion and realize, oh, this is just anger. This isn't, something that's bad.
It has all emotions are good, but they can obviously be canalized in a destructive way. But anger is really, it can be the opposite of this extreme agreeableness, like people just rolling over us, like no standing up for ourselves. It would be the opposite of angry. So having that back and standing up for ourselves. And it's also the emotion of boundaries being crossed.
Right.
That's what triggers anger. So it's a cool thing to have.
If you don't have it and you don't know your boundaries and you don't know yourself, you don't know. So it's part of having all my emotions is, having an inner knowing of who I am and what I want and my inner compass. And viewing the emotions, I think I read that in your book too, viewing the emotions as kind of a compass to helping me understand what I want out of life. And that's been extremely liberating.
Emotions 101, like what we weren't taught in school.
Yes.
What's sadness? What's anxiety? Okay, they come from somewhere. They're signals. We need to decode them and understand them. So no wonder you had repeated depressive episodes over 10 years if that help wasn't there to decode it and understand it. Yeah. So those came back.
Yes, they
came back. The drug? Yeah.
They did come back, and I'm very, very happy that they did.
What about thoughts? Because, not that you can disentangle those completely, but there are different spirits, like thoughts and emotions.
Yes.
What happened to your thoughts when you're off and now?
Yes, I loved reading your book because it felt like kind of a missing puzzle piece that I needed. Is with my relationship with my thoughts. Whenever I would have thoughts about depression, I had a feeling, and my thoughts are like, oh, maybe you have depression again. I always felt like I needed to chase that thought or do something with that thought. I needed to be proactive. I needed to avoid it at all costs. Or I needed to, I think for the most part, I'd try to read into it and solve it. I was like I needed to solve it. And after reading your book, it really helped me to leave them alone. And I think during withdrawal, having the mind frame of knowing that those were symptoms and I needed to leave them alone. And also I saw that in your videos too, that just let them be. That was huge. I think I could have made things a million times worse
if I didn't.
If I tried to solve them or I tried to avoid them. That would have been horrible.
So what did it do to you to read that? I'm curious. That idea, having that idea introduced into your life that we can in fact leave our thoughts and we don't have to answer or push them away.
It made a lot of sense to me, especially during withdrawal. When I started struggling with more like PTSD, stressful stuff, I went to a trauma therapist to try to get help, and she gave me some exercises that were super helpful. So I do recommend, if you're struggling with withdrawals, to seek that kind of help out. But one of the main things she talked about is like our beliefs about the trauma and beliefs about ourselves. And I had a belief that I was not capable of making it through this. And I think that led back to, a similar theme of my beliefs growing up. And once I could see how my thought train would spiral, lead me. I'd have a triggering thought that would spiral me down to that belief and put me into a pure panic.
It does feel just to confirm, it does feel uncontrollable, right? When you're in it, it does feel automatic, like we're, the victim of something. Just to clarify, because when we talk about it being controllable, it doesn't mean it doesn't feel uncontrollable, because it certainly does.
I feel like my brain was attacking me with thoughts. And then I realized after reading your book, oh, it's me. I'm engaging with these thoughts, and I'm not getting attacked. I'm creating that, and it honestly felt like just a relief. I was like, I don't need to do anything. It's kind of how it felt. Like I can leave these thoughts alone. And it felt like a breath of fresh air.
It's so liberating, and it's so lazy, really, because we're not. And this is where psychology really, disagrees. Different schools of psycho, and that's okay. That's healthy for a subject, which psychiatry could do that more. But really, like, what do you do in the exact moment when a intrusive, troubling thought arises? And there are different, solutions to that. One would say you have to argue it with a positive or constructive or realistic thought.
Counteract it.
Help for some, exactly. Find evidence. Help for some people. For others, at least for me, I certainly know it does not help. It adds to the problem, because then I get even more into my head. And my mind would just it's endless. It will just produce another scenario. That's its job, to seek problems. Meet it with compassion is another. Now that's good. That overlaps with this. But the third, and there are more obviously, is to do nothing. And it sounds so vague in the beginning, to do nothing. But really, we have a lot of thoughts every day that we do nothing about. We can't do something to all of them. So we know what it is to leave a thought alone. It's just a bit more difficult to a painful, because it pulls, right? It drags in your attention.
It's so individual, which thoughts that we
exactly. We have different triggers
that we look at and decide to attach, decide that we need to, because I think someone else could have some thoughts that I have and be like, oh, not read anything into it, be like, oh, yeah.
Therefore, that doesn't cause a problem. Mm-hmm. And no matter how many times psychology has tried, it's never been able to distinguish the normal group, whatever that is, from the disordered, mentally ill, whatever we call it, group, in terms of what thoughts they get. That's not it. Healthy people get just as weird, obsessive, intrusive, psychotic, whatever, manic, illegal thoughts as all the others. That's not the element that's changing. It's what we do to them for whatever reason we've had. And but it's also a way to make sense. Like overthinking is our attempts to try to make sense of it's what we have. So it makes sense that became a strategy back from age 14. That what else would you do? Mm-hmm. It's really the best thing we can do if we want to, I find, show our bodies that this is not the truth anymore. Mm-hmm. We're past, we're updated. It's 10 years later. There's no need to cost me this.
Right.
So arguing with it, even with positive, realistic, compassionate thoughts that are true, is not a good way to regulate it. Mm-hmm. So, because leave alone sounds so, it doesn't sound so compassionate now, does it? Well, it is.
Leave it alone.
Leave it alone. That's what I would say. But it is, because it means leave it alone. I got this.
And keep doing what you're doing.
Keep doing what you're doing.
And that was huge in Withdrawal. Yeah. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep, working.
Yes.
Don't, as soon as you put your attention to it, it gives it space.
Yeah, exactly.
Gives it space to grow.
It's difficult to actually explain what it means. Like that state where you have something and you leave it alone and you keep focusing here, but you're not trying to distract. Mm-hmm. That's it. Leaving alone and distraction is not the same. Mm-hmm. Distraction, the goal is different. You want to put on Netflix or an audiobook to replace the thought. So that's distraction. This is controlling our attention outwards while something is rumbling on.
Changing where, I love that we're empowered to choose where our attention goes.
It's so empowering.
It's so empowering. It's so empowering, and it's fun, and it is fun, and there's so much room for creativity in the individual of what we can decide to do with our attention.
Yeah, exactly. So, and there are a lot of exercises to do it. If this sounds too fluffy for people, there are a lot of exercises on how to do it. You can train.
Yes.
We can train our attention to not be attracted to whatever arises. Yeah.
You explain it super well in your book.
I
feel like it made a lot of sense to me. Every page I was like, what? This is so cool. I had to go show my husband. I'm like, what? We need to talk about this. So
yeah. Thank you so much. That was why I wrote it, to deliberately go straight to the person. I wouldn't say patient, but people. Like, it's a problem if we only canalize knowledge through professionals only. Mm-hmm. Why not just share it and be better at formulating it, at describing it in just a normal language with no fancy words. There are some fancy words, but I explained them in the book.
You do. You do a great job.
Fancy words. So that's why we're here. That's why I wrote the book. That's why I hold lectures. That's why we do this. Recorded this episode of your story. Thanks so much for sharing it.
Wow, thank you so much.
The highs and the lows, and I hope we succeed. And I think we succeeded in both acknowledging how much withdrawal sucks and how hellish it can be from an incorrect taper, I should say, while also it being a positive story of getting through it with all that involves. Yeah.
I hope so too. I hope, if anyone out there is feeling alone, I hope you know that you are not. And that this brought you some hope and that your story can be a success.
Yes. Great. Let those be the final words. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Anders.